Good evening. Welcome to Public Forum. I'm Natasha Jhabhaskar. Mitt Romney crushed President Barack Obama. That was one of the many judgments churning Twitter and Facebook during the first debate of the 2012 presidential contest. Twitter announced shortly after the first debate that it had been the most tweeted event in US political history. Social media participants marveled at Romney's strong outing and pronounced Obama's debate performance flat, non-energetic and meandering. The debate, the first in a series of three, saw Mr. Romney challenge the White House incumbent on the economy and job creation, and then questions of tax policy, entitlements, the deficit, healthcare and the proper role of government. In this edition of Public Forum, we are asking, after the first round of presidential debate, is it advantage Romney or whether it is too late to make a difference? Also with me is Dean of Jindal School of International Affairs, also well-known foreign affairs expert Sreeram Chaulia. Thank you very much, Mr. Chaulia, for joining us in this program. So President Obama underestimated Romney. He is or he was overconfident in the first debate. What do you think, Mr. Chaulia?
Yeah, I mean, David Axelrod, Obama's right-hand man, has admitted that there was presidential duties weighing upon Obama. And so, you know, he's not just a candidate. He also has to run a powerful country which has interests around the world. So he was probably underprepared. The prep time, as they're calling it, was not enough. And it could be a mistake. I mean, one must never take leads for granted. Although, as Ambassador Haider was saying, most of the time, I mean, these debates don't really swing, very much. In fact, if you see the percentage of undecided voters this time is rather small, even in some of the swing states. On average, like no more than 3 or 4%. So whether it can tilt just on the basis of theatrics and one's ability to be a good speaker, and have good repartee, I'm not sure. The other problem, of course, is, Obama's always, people say he's too professorial. And he comes up with complex arguments. So some study says this and some study that, while Romney saying, I'm going to get you jobs, right? It's more in the face. This problem had been faced even by Al Gore.
Also, was he way too cautious?
I think he was. In fact, he was not, taking, returning punches. And it's possible that they decided that they don't want to get into that kind of, because Obama has his own image. And there is always this small category of voters who don't like confrontation. And who in fact would have preferred that the president stays a little aloof from this kind of direct boxing. So I think it may have been intentional, may not have been, but you see, the key is, as preceding speaker was saying, we have time between now and then. There are more debates. So we'll have to see, but I don't personally think, even, except for the 1960, the inaugural debate with Kennedy and Nixon, these televised shows have never, it's more fluff. I don't think they carry the substance enough to be able to change a verdict that, in my opinion, is already set where the president is going to win.
So several battleground states like Ohio, Florida, Colorado, Virginia, which will decide who will win the presidential elections. Coming to you, Mr. Chaulia, how important these battleground states are?
Well, it's been standard strategy to focus on these because the other states are pretty much already, decided one way or the other. And then the electoral numbers and the logic permutations come up. But I think Obama, if I look back 4 years, they had already set their sights on states like Florida and the Hispanic vote. And that's why the president has been such a strong supporter of, more liberal immigration policy, for example. And Florida was always, a right-wing state, a so-called red state. So they have focused on a few ones. Ohio, pretty much, it remains Obama's stronghold now. And so I think where the Republicans tried to make a dent was with the economy argument. And it is true. The numbers. 7.8% cannot cover for the suffering that this long recession, or let's call it a second depression, has created in the society. And there is this attempt by the incumbent to put a positive spin and that, we are not going to go back. But, we have had these so-called mini recoveries or green shoots, and then we are back. It's a long systemic crisis out of which America is not, I don't see it emerging anytime soon. Right. But at least for this particular season, the, drop below 8% psychologically helps, because Ronald Reagan won an election with 7.4% unemployment. I think 7.8 or more, the only president who's ever won was Roosevelt during the Great Depression. People gave him the benefit of the doubt. We are in another depression.
Right. So, Mr. Chaulia, do you also feel that the optimism was way too exaggerated in his case, and especially when we talk about the change he promised and could not really deliver that change?
Well, you know, Obama said in 2009, I remember, a very startling, realistic revelation. He said, you know, the ship is like a tanker, like a large tanker at sea. It cannot be turned around so easily. And I think he had a large popular base and movement, which he, you could say, forfeited or lost along the way. And now it's more electoral, because that was supposed to be almost like a revolution. And now it's, you know, down to just scraping through and winning. It's not about changing the system altogether. And, you know, Romney has a point when he says, for example, Obama is kissing the, you know, the big banks. So there, you know, especially financial regulation, Wall Street.
And also the kind of support he has from Indian Americans there, and you know, people who are campaigning for him, people of Indian origin. What does it say? Because traditionally we have always supported a Republican candidate. What does it say about we shifting our base from Republican to a Democrat?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I spent a number of years in the United States, and I agree with the view that the bulk of the well-off Indian Americans were on the right. Both with their politics vis-a-vis what's happening in India as well as what's happening in the US. A lot of them used to like figures like Paul Ryan, because they would say, you know, cut taxes, and they're already wealthy, and they shared in many ways the WASP ideology, because they are the cream of the immigrant community. But if it's changing for the better, I mean, I'm happy to see more Indians. But perhaps it's just being opportunistic, because, you know, in all likelihood, Obama is going to get a second term, and they would want him on the right side and get more positions and fare better.
Even Romney has said earlier that America's status in the global arena declined because of President Obama. I have a caller with me now from Maharashtra. Yes, sir. Please ask your question.
Yes. Good evening, Public Forum. I am Mr. J.N. Rao from Maharashtra. My question is to Ambassador Salman Haider Saab. The whole world is watching with great interest the United States elections. One thing is certain, the incoming president of USA will have many problems like Afghanistan, Gulf War fallouts of 1990, unemployment, wars with the Islamic world, trying to break the age-old friendship between India and Pakistan, friendship and nuclear disarmament. Your comments on the subject?
In fact, in US elections, what matters more is the domestic issue than foreign policy issues. Your comments, Mr. Chaulia, you were disagreeing with Mr. Balachandran.
Sure, sure. You know, on Israel, Romney is so close to Netanyahu. There's like hardly any daylight between the two, right? Obama, on the other hand, has distanced himself a lot from Netanyahu. The tension has been underlying for the last 4 years. It's a significant strain that cannot just be dismissed as saying it's just semantics, and that, you know, pretty much both of them are saying the same thing.
And after the UN General Assembly meet, Mr. Netanyahu is very upset with Barack Obama.
Why is Mitt Romney not talking about a diplomatic solution? You only said all options on the table. Mitt Romney never says that we should talk to Iran. Obama is saying that. We still need to have faith in talking to Iran and not allowing this to lead to the stage of war. So whether he's trying to fish for the Jewish vote, or more importantly, whether he represents the Christian/Jewish right in American society, because he's a Mormon, he's trying even harder now to appease the fundamentalist right, and whether that element wants war with Iran or not is the critical question. And this is where, you know, there's a strong divide. On other questions, even on China, I mean, Romney is like acting like a cowboy, right? He says he's going to nominate them as manipulators on the first day, and everybody knows that is hot air. But more important than that, Romney represents a kind of a Cold War mentality. Obama doesn't. Obama is a different generation. Romney is talking about how we're going to restore America's glory by being tough and aggressive and militaristic and muscular. Obama is talking about use your brains. We are now a declining power. This is a huge adjustment that Obama has made. I think he's the president for the right time when America is in relative decline. Rather than, you know, wanting to return, you know, the days of the Cold War when we're going to, he says, Romney says, Russia is our #1 geopolitical foe. That's a huge mistake.
But so you're saying President Obama is more realistic,
polarization.
and not to forget, he's also served as the president for last 4 years. He knows very well what are the challenges for the country. Another caller with me now from Gujarat. Yes, sir. Please ask your question.
गुजरात साबरकांठा साटंबा से परेश पंचाल बोल रहा हूँ। आज तक अमेरिका के अभी तक जो प्रेसिडेंट हुए उन्होंने अमेरिका के लिए क्या किया, ओबामा ने भी क्या किया, रोमानी साहब भी क्या करना चाहते हैं और अमेरिका को क्या करना मतलब की जरूरत है कि उनके पॉलिटिशियन उनके लिए क्या करे। आज अमेरिका में मंदी है ऐसा कहा जाता है, तो ये मंदी को उबारने के लिए भी कौन आगे आने वाला है। अमेरिका को दूसरे कंट्रीज के साथ, कम्युनिटी के साथ दुश्मनी हो गई है, उसके लिए भी अमेरिका के नए आने वाले लोग क्या करना चाहते हैं। और ये लास्ट में इतना कहना चाहूंगा कि ओबामा साहब ने क्या किया और रोमानी साहब क्या करना चाहेंगे, दोनों में
This is what they are saying in most of their debates also, what they can do and what they plan to do.
I just want to add, Sandeep, one point is that Libya, Obama will get a kind of, I would say, an outlet, a pass, because he was so-called leading from behind. And the French and the British were in the front, and although the Americans supplied the, the aircraft and so on. So I think, and Romney's been criticizing, saying that we can't lead from behind, we have to be up front. But, Libya, I think he'll get a pass. But, now the most recent incident, rather than for the unseating of Gaddafi, he may actually face flag for, they're saying there was, security warnings and the government had not reacted on time.
And CIA failed also reports.
So that could be, but again, I think his response was far more, it was underwhelming in a way. And that is what America needs to do right now in order to keep its house in shape.
Okay, but you never get to hear, if I have to say, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, we haven't really heard him. So, in a way, how do we get to know, what are the policies, apart from the manifesto, when do you hear them? They never come in the studios, party leaders never visit us. How is it that you get to know about what they stand for?
It's a leadership vacuum.
Especially, it's just the spokesperson defending parties and defending people.
It's a leadership vacuum and also visibility vacuum, what you're mentioning. As Ambassador Haider was saying, our emphasis is less on individuals because it's not a presidential system. But I would say that more than the presidential debates, we would certainly benefit from primaries, because they create the kind of internal democracy within parties which is pretty much abysmal in India. You have the strong man or strong woman, and everybody is collecting around that tent. So within parties, I mean, intra-party democracy, I think we have something to learn from the Americans, and if it can be made mandatory to have some kind of internal political process for leadership to be determined and for candidacy to be determined, I think it will be enormously beneficial, and there's no harm learning from that part. Face to face, yeah, I think our system may not suit it very much.
Okay, final comments from you, Mr. Chaulia.
Well, I've said this before, Romney represents the idea that there's some kind of divine right of CEOs to rule America, and Romney represents ideas that at this juncture in American economic history are totally out of place and historically wrong. And so I think better judgment, better sense will prevail. Obama represents, even though he has not been as progressive and revolutionary a president as he could have been, he's still the lesser evil, and the Americans will vote for him.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us in this program, and let's hope, whosoever wins does good for India. And that's all we have for you in this edition of Public Forum. Thanks so much for watching.